Vice President, Mr. Speaker, members of the Senate, of the House of Representatives, yesterday, December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy, the United States of America was suddenly and deliberately attacked by naval and air forces of the Empire of Japan.
That clip is probably the most well-known opening of any speech of the 20th century, and it came, of course, shortly after Japan attacked us, and it was given by the 32nd President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, as he addressed a very worried nation by radio. It was the start of World War II, a time that lay just ahead that would cost many lives at the maligned hands of the evil Axis, and this president was no stranger to national crisis. But before we look at some of the things that he had to face in his 4 terms in office, let's look at the stamp that I'm talking about. Beautiful, beautiful commemorative from Cuba. It was a commemorative issue, and there were 3 million printed, which is fairly low printing, and yet copies of the stamp remain very inexpensive if you want to add one to your collection. A block of 4 that I have, that I'm hopefully showing you right now, actually only cost me about $5, and you can get an individual stamp for about $3. So it is very yeah, it is affordable. It has a watermark, and that watermark is the Star of Cuba, and it was printed by the recess printing method. It's a very dramatic effect, I think, and beautiful. The darkened lines are recessed below the surface of the die in recess printing. Now, as a form of recess printing, line engraving utilizes incised areas on the printing plate that holds ink, and when moistened paper is pressed against it, under intense pressure, the ink is pulled from the recess. And as I said, and as you can see, it gives a really dramatic effect. Start of President Roosevelt's first term in office, the United States was in the stranglehold of the Great Depression, as well as the Dust Bowl. His ingenious methods saw us through that horrendous time. He was so beloved by the people that he is the only president to serve more than 2 terms. He was into his 4th term when he died in 1945, as World War II was drawing to a close. Every senior who has ever lived since his administration, his original first administration and second, and who lives on Social Security, owes a debt of thanks to President Roosevelt, for it was his plan that would assure working Americans like you and I would have something to live on in their old age. It wasn't to be given to illegal aliens as it is today, but to people who had actually lived in the United States, was a citizen of the United States, and who served either in the military or in the manufacturing or any of the many industries of our country. So we all have something to thank him for in our old age. And unfortunately, that's where I am. He was honored on the postage stamps of many, many nations, which would have delighted him. Because why would that delight him? Well, he began collecting stamps himself as a boy, and he carried right on through the White House years. He never stopped. It was a great source of relaxation and even education. So it's a hobby that has seen better days, but it's still strong, and it's a good hobby to get someone young involved in, because it teaches a lot about history and culture and so on. The relations between the United States and Cuba was not always strained as it is today. The stamps I'm showing you, or the stamp I'm showing you, was issued by Cuba, as I said, 2 years after his passing. Taking that oath was a man who was a powerhouse, a juggernaut, a man who loved his fellow Americans and this, our great nation. Some things, however, do not change from generation to generation, unfortunately. What do I mean? From 2016 to 2020, we had just such a man in office, President Donald Trump, and every swamp creature in D.C. tried to get him removed from office. In all, of President Roosevelt's work, there was behind the scenes some pretty powerful men, businessmen, plotting a coup to remove him from office, but they failed, and they failed big time, to be sure. But one of their main gripes was giving more power to the working American. So FDR was a powerhouse for you and I, well, for our parents and grandparents, and for us. And he was an amazing, amazing man to serve 4 terms. Well, he was in his 4th term, as I said, when he died. But as I said, they failed big time. And so FDR took us through some very dark times. By the great glory of God, we came through strong, tough, and persevered until recent times. And who was remarkable. I forgot one of the big, important things to tell you about him. Sorry about that. In August 1921, FDR fell victim to polio, and he suffered being paralyzed from the waist down. Now, knowing this would hinder his ability for election, and he was a politician at heart, he taught himself to walk very short distances. He had iron braces on his legs, and he usually appeared in public standing upright, supported on one side by an aide or one of his sons. So he didn't only face national problems, he faced great hardships of his own, and served his fellow Americans just with the greatest pride.
And now everything is ready for the big moment. Chief Justice Hughes of the United States Supreme Court prepares to administer the oath of office to Franklin D. Roosevelt, making him the 62nd President.
You, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, do solemnly swear that you will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of your ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help you God. I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. So help me God.
So I hope that you enjoyed that again. Love you all very much, and I hope to see you again real soon, God willing. Stay well. Paris, I'm still looking for some stamps.